My name is Corey Dooley, and I'm on the Community Leadership Podcast.
The city of Chicago got a Greek town, they got a Chinatown, they got a little Italy, they got a boys town, Ukrainian village. I could go on and on. So what we're building is Soul City. Soul City is that cultural enclave and economic driver for African Americans. So it's a mile stretch right there on Chicago Avenue between Austin and Cicero. So I pretty much work with businesses. TNC Fitness, they got a gym that's about to open up right there on Chicago Avenue in Mayfield, husband and wife couple.
Come on.
Liz Abenaw's opening up 40 Acres Fresh Market, first black-owned grocery store to come to the area. Mm-hmm. Robbie Wilkerson and all my people, I'm shouting them out because they doing some great work. They just opened up a coffee shop. So a lot of great work. Also, like I said, I'm an entrepreneur. I just started my own business, Community Corey, where I published my own book. Got to plug myself.
Let's see. Raise it up a little lower, a little bigger. Get your fingers out the way.
Look.
You can't see the front.
Y'all got to be able to see this, man. This is Lil Shorty Love. Lil Shorty Love. I just published it. I used Canva to make the art for free. Well, I got a professional account, so it's technically not free, but very low cost. And you can publish through Amazon KDP for free. So, I got my book. Oftentimes, I spend a lot of time volunteering or talking to kids about, the importance of entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm. So what's the book about?
So the book is about my story, honestly. I probably shouldn't give y'all too much because then y'all ain't gonna read the book. But yeah, it's just kind of like my life story, what I've learned. And man, just to give something back to the little shorties, that's why it's Lil Shorty Love. Because I want to give back to them what I wish I would have had or what I would have wished somebody would have told me. And yeah, they hear it coming from somebody that's young, somebody that's been through something that they cousin probably been through. They probably been through somebody that they know. And so yeah, just something to give back to them.
Okay, so where can people find this book?
People can find this book on Amazon. You can type in Lil Shorty Love. I got a few copies if you want to purchase some copies from me. You can visit my website, communitycorey.com, and purchase it there too.
Awesome. So you got a book out. You're helping out a community. Mm-hmm. Soul City, what was it?
Yep, the Soul City Corridor.
Okay. What do you do exactly for the community there?
Yeah, so I'm the corridor manager there. The last administration, Lightfoot administration, came out with the Invest Southwest initiative, where they had this big pot of money to invest in 10 commercial corridors on the south and west side. Austin and Soul City corridor was one of them. What that looks like is working with the businesses to let them know like the different grants in the area. Department of Planning has a grant out right now that people can apply for, federal grants. We also have business services at our office. We have a Chicago Business Center. So helping entrepreneurs, write their business plan. And the organization that I work for, Austin African American Business Networking Association, which is short for AAABNA, we're a membership organization. Mm-hmm. So plug in our members with as much economic information as I can. We host a plethora of events. We do a 5K every year. We do a chili cook-off. We do a blues fest. So man, anything from like advocacy to hosting events, gaining more attraction to the corridor, so that way our businesses, can profit.
Awesome, man. Sounds like you are busy.
Man, I can tell you that. Yes, for sure.
So I've read that you ran for office as well.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I did as well. Yep, I ran for 29th Ward Alderman in the past election cycle. And I got to tell you, man, Chicago politics is something like you've never seen before.
How did that look like? Explain to me. Explain to the viewers, what did that look like for you?
What did that look like for a 25-year-old who's not from Chicago and has just been working for a local nonprofit? That looks like a lot of relationship building. That looks like a lot of phone calls. That looks like a lot of door time, right? Knocking on doors. And that looks like crafting your message to a wide variety of audiences and still being able to get that point across. So man, it was a crazy time. Honestly, I spent a lot of time at the schools, and people would always ask me, "Why are you at the schools? Them kids can't vote for you. You're wasting time." Mm-hmm. But I ran my campaign because I wanted the youth to see, something different. I wanted them to see somebody young running for office and inspire them to one day, kind of make it look cool, right? Inspire the next generation of political leaders. And I know I still keep in contact with a lot of the students, and they definitely have told me that race had a positive impact on them.
Awesome. Do you see yourself doing something else like that?
If the people support me, I definitely don't see why not.
Awesome.
Yep, why not?
Awesome. So you're still going to college, correct?
Actually, I do. Kinda go to college. We're gonna have to edit this out. But yes, I'm in school for architecture at Arizona State University.
Okay.
Yeah.
How's that looking right now?
That is looking. It's looking beautiful because I never knew I had a passion for architecture. Growing up, that wasn't like something that I said, oh, I want to be an architect. My mom told me I was going to be a lawyer because every time I got in trouble, I had a way to explain myself out of the situation. So she was like, oh, you're going to make a good lawyer. But I ended up in school for architecture and, just the work that I was doing on Chicago Avenue. And I would see all of these different futuristic renderings of these buildings. I'm like, man, I want to build something like that. And so that's kind of what got me interested in that. I'm debating on whether I still want to continue in school. Not that I don't enjoy the program, but I do understand, okay, it's going to take me a few years to get this degree. And if I have certain aspirations in a few years, is that going to line up? Am I going to be able to manage all of that? If I'm building a business, if I'm working 2 jobs, am I going to be able to still go to school? Also, you got to look at the debt, right? Like, being an architect is beautiful, but that comes with some serious cash. And I have an undergraduate degree. I have 1 master's degree, and now I'm working on a 2nd master's degree. And so, when you look at paying that back, right, I'm not trying to get in no more debt. I'm trying to make as much profit as possible to get myself out of debt. So those are some of the things that I'm kind of, juggling now. But whether I continue in school or not, I still do have the passion for architecture, and that's something I'm still going to pursue.
Okay.
Man, a child of God, definitely. I'm the son of my mother, and my father. I'm somebody that puts other people before myself, just because, I just show love, whether you love me or not, you're going to get the same energy from me. That's just because that's who I am.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. Awesome. So you mentioned your family.
Yep.
You said your mother and your father?
Yes.
Okay. How old are you right now?
I'm 26.
Oh, you're younger than I thought. Okay.
Yeah. How young am I, right?
Yeah. So what's your relationship with your parents?
My relationship with my parents is great. My mom, man, and we'll get into this later just with my story, but everybody got a soft spot for their mom. Your mom is the one that carries you and raises you, and just gives you that nature. Where I'm at right now in my life is because I listen to my mom. Whether what she told me ended up happening or not, it was the fact that I took that path and it got me to where I am today. My dad is crazy. I love him. He's like, the fun side of me. I would say my mom is like my mom is fun too, because I know she gonna watch this podcast and be like, you said I'm not fun. No, mama, you fun too. You keep my head on straight. My dad, man, he a funny guy. I can always laugh with him, chop it up with the manly talk. So yeah, that's kind of my relationship with my parents.
Awesome. So Corey, who were you at 10 years old?
Who was I at 10 years old? Man, we kind of got serious. We was just talking about Tom and Jerry. Now we talking about me at 10 years old. 10 years old, what grade is that you in? Was that 4th grade?
I think so.
Somewhere like 4th grade.
5th grade.
4th or 5th grade.
Yeah.
I had just moved. So I'm originally from Dallas, Dallas, Texas. And I was living in Cedar Hill for my Texas people. I'm going to talk, locations that they know. I was living in Cedar Hill, and then I moved to South Grand Prairie. And so I was in a transition at the time, moving schools as a kid. I don't know if you had that same experience. But you got to, get a new set of friends, and you got to kind of fit in. You got to kind of see the landscape of what's going on. And so who I was, and at 10 years old, I was a class clown. I was new to the setting, so I'm trying to make friends. I'm trying to be liked, and plus, I'm naturally a funny guy. But man, and I remember meeting two of my homies that I'm still cool with to this day. They're like my brothers. My homie Jonathan Anthony and my friend Cameron West. And so, man, those guys I really tapped in with since 4th grade, and I still call them up now. You know what I'm saying? We all doing great things. So that's who I was at 10 years old. Yeah, I was the class clown at 10 years old.
How were your grades?
My grades, You know, they were good in elementary school. They were good in elementary school.
You said in elementary school. Like you specifically say in elementary school, like maybe not in high school.
Yeah, and I don't think this is any secret, right? For Black and brown students, you know, the educational experience is different depending on where you go to school at. You know, a lot of us are dealing with stuff outside of the classroom that makes it a little bit more difficult for the teacher to, you know, for it to learn. And then your teacher's got to really go out of the way so you can, you know, be caught up because you got a lot of other needs other than academics. So, you know, I've never failed a grade. I've always been an A, B, C sometimes student. But, you know, I think as you get older, and like, you know, life keeps happening, it's a little bit harder to, you know, focus strictly on academics when there might be other stuff going on. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I just said you're 10. Now you're gonna picture yourself at 15 years old.
Okay.
Who were you at 15?
Ooh. Victim of gun violence at this time. I'm a survivor of gun violence. And so when I was 15 years old, I was shot 4 times in a domestic dispute. My mom had been married to my stepdad at the time for a few years. And, you know, when stuff just not going right, it's like, okay, I need to get out of this situation. So my mom, you know, she's always put our family first and her children first so that we could succeed and strive. And so she attempted to get out of the situation. He wasn't happy with that. We coming home one day and man, we pull in the garage door goes down, then it jerks back up. Something gets in the way of the sensor. I look to my right. It's my stepdad standing there, you know, at the time with a gun pointed at me. And so, you know, that incident, I end up being shot 4 times. My mother is shot twice. My little brother's in the back seat witnessing all of this. And so, man, at 15 years old, prior to that night, October 16th, 2013, prior to that night, I was a sophomore in high school playing on the JV football team at wide receiver. In a few weeks, I was hoping I could move up, you know what I'm saying, and play on varsity. So I was a 160-pound football player before that. And then the first time I got to step on the scale, I was a 97-pound hospital patient. So, you know, it depends on where I'm at 15. You know, that was a big year of my life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How did that change you, that situation? Did that change you in any kind of way?
Man, going through a situation like that, right? It definitely changes you spiritually, emotionally, physically. Like I underwent all of that. But lucky for me, you know, I'm a believer. My mom has always made sure that my family stood on faith. She's always put the Bible in front of me and not just talked about it, but had an application to show me, hey, God is real. And actually that night, we were caught in an ambush, right? And I don't know if most people know, you know, if you caught in an ambush, you kind of caught off guard, right? And that night, we started to scream the name Jesus. And the car was off at the time. So my mom went to start the car. That's how we end up getting out of the situation. But that's just all the emphasis back to my foundation and roots, just being in God and just being a believer. And as a 15-year-old boy, you don't even, you know, as much as I knew God and had a relationship with him or the relationship that I thought I had with him, you know, I was angry. I was like, God, why would you do this to me? I never did nobody wrong. I'm just a 15-year-old kid. You know, so I didn't really understand why I had to go through that. But 10 years later, you know, I'm sitting on Flavor Podcast, you know, and I'm telling my story to the world, you know. And so I know people find inspiration in that and just being a light. Yeah, that's kind of been my journey.
Mm-hmm. Have you managed to forgive him?
You know, I have. And just because you forgive don't mean that you forget, right? But I don't hold anything in my heart against him because what you got to understand, it's not what happened to you, but how can God be glorified through it, right? And I understood, man, it wasn't all of him having this big plot and big plan to kill me and destroy my life. This was actually a part of a larger plan for God to glorify, you know, the work that I'm doing and use me as a testimony and as a light. So when you look at it from that perspective, you can't really be, you know what I'm saying? You can't really be upset at an individual if you know God had a plan for you in the beginning. So that's kind of my lens and how I approached it.
So when did you come to Chicago?
So I came to Chicago in 2016. That fall, well, actually, I had a visit to Concordia University, Chicago, and I remember getting a letter in the mail. And my mom was sitting in the living room, and I was like, hey, or it was a letter in the mail, or it was a DM or something. I was like, Mom, I just got contacted from a school in Chicago. I'm not going to Chicago. Chief Keef is there. I'm not trying to get shot again. I'm not. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to stay local, be by my family, be safe. And my mama said, you going to go wherever, they giving you money to go. And she checked it out with her colleagues, right? Because everybody thinks Chicago is some war zone, you know what I'm saying? It's really a beautiful city. And there's not that much going on as the media would have you to believe. But anyways, long story short, I ended up taking my visit here, and sometime it was like late January, early February. And I remember getting in the Uber from the airport, and man, I felt the city calling my name. It was like I heard like a Corey. I heard it like 4 times. And I'm like, man, okay, the city giving me a vibe. Like, man, maybe I'm supposed to be here. And so, man, 8 years later, here I am.
Wow. So you came on by yourself?
Well, my mom came with me and my little brother came with me.
Okay.
And we visited the school, and then, they pretty much dropped me off on campus in the fall. And we drove 15 hours from Dallas up to, it was like 13 hours to Springfield, and then like Springfield to Chicago. Man, they drove me up here, and then they drove back.
Okay.
Yep.
So you're here in Chicago on your own right now?
No, I'm with my wife that I met at Concordia. My wife Sierra, I know she gonna watch this. Hey, baby, love you. Met her at Concordia. She was a soccer athlete. I was a football athlete. So naturally, we got to kick it.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a little joke in there. I don't know if you caught it. Okay, you
football,
did.
Yeah. It's more like a dad joke. Are you a dad?
I am not a father,
Okay.
no sir.
Well, you're ready for it.
Yep.
So you've been married for how long?
For a year. Yep, we just celebrated a year, and last fall, so a year and a few months.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Was it a Chicago wedding or a Texas wedding?
It was a Chicago wedding, Chicago style wedding. Okay. I had it was just a place that we met. It was a Chicago love story.
So, where did you meet your wife?
So we met at college on campus. It's really a Chicago love story because I remember we were in the dorm one day. And we were in the same building, but we were separated by doors. There was the women's on the right side and the men's on the left side. But us young people, we always connecting. So we would go on the young lady side. And honestly, disclaimer, I was dating a girl at the time, trying to do a long distance relationship when I got here, and things just did not work out. But it was like the first few weeks, so nobody saw me. And Concordia is a small campus. Honestly, it's kind of like a high school campus. It kind of reminded me of. And so everybody had kind of knew each other at those 3 weeks. So I come in like the new guy, whatever. But I remember we were having a conversation on who was the best rap artist at the time. And I had some people from Florida. They were saying Kodak. We had some people from Detroit. They were saying Famous Dex. And then I said something about G Herbo was like the best artist. And she kind of looked up and she was like, G Herbo. And we kind of started talking. And she was like, I was like, what you know about G Herbo? Just trying her. And she was like, tell me to play a song. And I told her to play Just Bars, which is like, kind of like a popular song, but you kind of had to really listen to the artist to know. And she played the song and we sung it bar for bar. And I was like, oh, yeah, I need to learn more about her. And so, man, that's kind of, and then following that, my first football game, I was blessed to be able to come in and play as a freshman and start. And one of her friends was trying to hook her up. She was the freshman, and so they're at the football game, and she's like, I know somebody. I got the right guy for you. And she said my name, Corey Dooley. And she was like, oh, okay, yeah, I know him. I just met him. And a few moments later, I scored my first college touchdown. And my name was on my name came over the broadcast. I was like, Corey Dooley, touchdown. And she was like, okay, that's a confirmation that, that's my man. So that's kind of the love story right there.
Okay. So how did you propose to her?
I had this big, I'm going to take a sip of water real quick.
Go ahead.
I had this big old thing planned. This was during the pandemic. So the pandemic, already know what the pandemic did. Mm-hmm. Shut down a lot of stuff. So I was going to plan this big old party, have her people come through and surprise her. And it just wasn't working out. People didn't want to travel. And I was just like, man, I had the ring and I'm like antsy to give it to her. So I'm like, you know what? forget the big celebration. I'm gonna just give it to her. So she was working at Cooper's Hawk at the time, right there in Oak Park. And she came home and she's telling me how stressful her day was. And, she all dirty and got restaurant food on her and stuff. And I was like, just freshen up. And then, I'll meet you whenever you're done freshening up. So she freshens up and she's just still kind of, telling me about her day. And I just, man, we were in the bedroom and I had it like in the closet, you know what I'm saying? I grabbed it out the closet and I just proposed right there. And at first, when I pulled out the box, it's like a special moment. And she was like, "Are those earrings?" And it almost ruined it. I'm like, "Girl, I'm not finna get on one knee to get earrings." And so, man, but I opened it up and man, it was a special moment. And she said it was probably better like that. So she didn't have to cry, in front of all the hundreds of people that it would have been. Mm. Yeah.
Did your parents know that you were going to propose?
Yep, they did. Yep, they knew.
Her parents?
Yes, they knew. Yep, they did. Yep, I had the blessing, man. So, I went and had to go ahead and secure the bag.
So, Corey, what do you see yourself doing in the next 5 years? You see yourself in a new job? You see yourself with some kids? Still here in Chicago, going back to Texas, maybe moving to España? You never know.
Right.
Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
I got to give a shout out to CLF because they're helping us put together a 5-year plan. And, man, I think... And I don't want to speak broadly, but I mean, a lot of like young black men like myself, we don't see ourselves living long. Even when you're in a good position, you didn't necessarily quote unquote grow up in the hood, which I never, grew up in the hood or anything like that. My mom always provided for us. I wasn't in no, overly affluent neighborhood. But man, you just don't see yourself, and maybe it's just me. I didn't see myself necessarily living long, maybe just because of what I went through when I was 15. So, I've always been like focused in the now. And that has some advantages, right? But that also has some disadvantages because like, you end up flying by the seat of your pants, you just kind of doing what needs to happen in the moment. You don't really take time to say, man, where am I going to be in 5 to 10 years? And so as I've started to, look at that plan, man, I want to be a New York Times bestseller, right? I got a book. I want to be a multimillionaire, I want to buy property. I want to continue to, make sure that this whole city model gets developed. So that way it's not just one in Chicago. I can take one back to Dallas, or I can take one to different parts of the city, different parts of the country. That's kind of what I see myself doing in 5 years. If that was specific enough for you.
Well, I did mention kids.
Kids are definitely a part of the plan. I definitely want to be a family man. People ask me how many kids I want. I say 10.
Whoa.
Right? Whoa. But it's like, my grandmother's generation.
All right, Cannon.
Look, my wife gonna listen to this and be like, "You told them people 10?" She like, "Okay, we can do 3 or 4." But it's, that was normal a few generations ago. But obviously, the world was a lot different then. But I say that because I always wanted that family aspect, that father figure. I want to be that for my children. And so definitely here within the next few years, having a couple of kids. Yep.
Cool. Can you mention in detail one of the greatest moments in your life?
What comes to my mind right now? One of the greatest moments in my life. Ooh, I would say one of the greatest moments of my life. Man, I've had a lot of good moments.
First thing that came to mind.
First thing that came to mind was honestly, I remember being in the locker room in college, and man, I forget this kid's name. And I hope he don't watch this podcast because he gonna know I forgot his name. Juice. We used to call him Juice. And I remember we were in the locker room and he was just telling me how much of a positive impact that I had on his life. And I don't know why it was so important. It was really just a random moment. But, I was like really involved with like, we would have a, what do we call it? We would have like chapel with the team and like a Thursday night Bible study sessions. And, I just always did my best to be a leader, lead by example. I was a captain of the team. And so really embodying that role model and that leadership. And I remember him just telling me like, hey man, like, you've helped change my life. Like, I look up to you as a leader, somebody that's inspiring. And it was so simple, but it just kind of hit me in that moment. Like, man, nobody ever really tells you how good you're doing. Whenever you mess up, they're going to tell you. And so I don't know what it was about that moment or hearing it from him that was just like, man, I'm going down the right track and people are seeing it and I'm making a positive impact on people's lives. And so I guess, the smallest things have the biggest impact sometimes. So that's kind of what first came to my mind.
Okay.
Yep.
So if you could change something for you in your life or change something for someone else, who would you pick and why?
Man, I would change. I lost my uncle recently. And so he had 3 daughters that he left behind. And man, to lose a father, to not know your father, lose him at such a young age, man, that really impacts you. And so, man, if I could have him back for their sake so that they could have their dad, man, I would definitely change that, in a heartbeat.
I'm giving it a few seconds because I want to ask you for this next question, but I'm not sure if I'm going to use it or not. Mm-hmm. How did he pass?
Murder. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know how I go in the community.
Here in Chicago?
No, this wasn't in Chicago. No, this was back in Tulsa.
Tulsa, Alabama?
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
Yep.
How did that make you feel?
Man, it made me feel. I remember driving down the street and getting a call from. Actually, it was my dad letting me know that my uncle had passed. And man, uncle, it's like a second dad to you. And so, man, it definitely it hurt me. It broke me. But I know that he's still with me, and it helped me because I want to be a great father someday. So now, if anything, I got more children. You know what I'm saying? I got more little ones to look after and make sure that they feel that love. That he would have gave them.
So, Corey, what keeps you positive?
What keeps me positive? First off, my faith, right? The word, it's always going to cheer you up and lead you down the right direction. What keeps me positive is my family. Just remembering where I came from whenever times get hard, thinking of my nieces and nephews, thinking of my brother, thinking of my wife, thinking of all the people that support me. And that supported me when I was at my lowest and have helped me to get to where I am today. And I guess I'm very fortunate to see what life is like on the other side. So, man, you can't really complain about much when, you couldn't walk. I couldn't even drink water at a certain point. I had to rub an ice cube on my lips just to wet my lips because my digestive system, wasn't running. And so, man, I think about the struggles now. It's like, man, that's light compared to what I've been through. And so that's kind of how I stay positive, just reflecting on what I've been through and how I'm able to get here. That brings me joy.
Awesome. So how is CLF helping you with your new journey?
Man, CLF is a first of its kind. I don't know of any organization on the west side of Chicago that is convening leaders and giving them resources at a local, state, national, and international level so that we can continue to do the work in our communities. Man, they have connected me and brought me in so many rooms to where I could create my own relationships, create partnerships. Like I said, they're helping us develop this 5-year plan. Mm-hmm. They're helping us develop not just now, but like for the future. And they're building a network of people that we can tap into, so whenever we are doing our work, we're not alone. We can collaborate. We can make partnerships. So, man, I love CLF, and I encourage anybody to apply to be a part of the fellowship for sure.
Awesome. So last question. Cowboys fan or Chicago Bears fan?
Man, we both sad right now, but I'm definitely a Dallas Cowboys fan. I know you've seen what happened to us in the playoffs. It's okay. We're going to get it together, though. We're going to get it together, but right. Definitely Chicago a Cowboys fan. Better. Yeah, I know. At least we made it, right? That's At least we made it to the playoffs. So
I'm a Packers fan, so we made it to the playoffs.
I think I'm ready to go.
Well, Corey Dooley, man, I thank you for coming down to the Community Leadership Podcast. We'll see you out there.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, Los. Appreciate the team. Y'all take care.